Okay, as you recalled, in our last segment, Python crashed badly, right? It gave blood all over the place. It took our length, it took our width, but then it came down here and said traceback, most recent call last, is telling us the file that I'm working on, and it's telling us line 26 in the module, A is equal to L times W. And it says type error, can't multiply sequence by non-int of type str. Wow, what on earth does that mean? Well, what I can do is I can highlight all that, do a Control C, double click on Google, and put Control V. There we go, and I'll say Python if it'll let me. And let's see what it says. Right off the bat, I get some great hits. So if I click over here, it's going to start giving me some descriptions of what to do. Okay, for example, I equals int x, y equals int y. In other words, you should convert the data you get from the console to integers. What exactly does that mean? As you look through this, you're going to end up discovering that whenever we receive anything using the input command like this, it doesn't give us an actual number. Instead of giving us, say, 6, it actually gives us an ASCII character for the number 6. The hexadecimal representation for that character would be 36. In other words, it's not even close to what we need. Python sees that piece of information. It sees this information right here as a string variable, and we can't just simply take March and July and multiply them together unless there's something stored inside them. Okay, what we've done is we literally took the character for 6 and we stored it in L. It needs to be actually a number. So what I do personally to help me remember is I put in an underscore str for string. So now I know that those critters are strings. And by the way, this is one of many ways to solve this problem, but for right now, we'll do that, okay? Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say L is equal to int L underscore string. And what this does is it takes whatever this is, if it's possible, if it can do it, it's going to convert it into an integer. What's an integer? Well, an integer is any whole number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. A floating point number, or a float, is any number that has a decimal point plus some fractional portion, such as 3.14159, which is pi, okay? So I'm going to come down here, and I could actually say float, just like that, but I'll use int, because integers are much more accurate to work with, all right? So down here, I'm going to create another command called w, and I'm going to make it equal to int w underscore str. So now what I've done is I've taken the input from the user, which is string input, and here I converted it into an integer, all right? This is known as casting or typecasting, because data can come as a string. It can be a string, which is a type of data, right? Just like we have Macintosh apples, which is a type of apple, or we have navel oranges, which is a type of oranges, or we have apples are a type of fruit. Oranges are a different type of fruit, okay? So we have the same kind of a thing going on with data. We have string data, which is, it's a type of string. And then we have data that is nothing more than a bunch of integers, so we say it's an integer type. If the data involved, natural logarithms and pi and all those kinds of things, we could say that that data is a floating type. So what I've done is by putting int in the front and putting my variable right here, it's going to take the contents of that variable and it's going to cast it. It's going to force it to be in a new mold, if you will, of type integer. Okay, I realize that for some of you guys that isn't going to make a great deal of sense right now, but as you progress, as you work your way through this and read more information from your text and resources on the web, you're going to realize, or you're going to understand more completely what's going on with types and this notion of type casting. Okay, so now let's run it. I'll save this thing, run it, and like before, it's asking for the length, so I'll type in 6. And now it's asking for the width, so I'll type in 2, and now it didn't crash. So if I type in A for area, we should get 12 for the area, which is correct. And if I type in P for perimeter, we should get 16, which is also correct. So now we know that the input portion works. We know that the processing portion works. And now we're ready to do the output portion, okay? Now the output portion can also be just a little bit challenging because of this type conversion business. So probably the easiest thing to do is simply to go print. Let's see, output results. Area and perimeter. Is that right? PRI? Yeah, PER. Guess we should have the E in there. And it's always a good idea to include a space between your pounds and the actual text. Okay, so there's the area and the perimeter. So what I'll do is I'll go print. My parentheses, I'm going to do a quote. The area is close quote, and if I do a comma and simply type in A, Python will automatically convert this information into a string and concatenate it with this. And down here I can say print. The perimeter is close quote, comma, P, like so. Let's see how that works out. Okay, so we'll run it, run the module, okay to save, yep. And we'll put in 6, and this time I'll use 4. And it says the area is 24 and the perimeter is 20. And you'll notice that there's this huge amount of space between the two. So as it turns out that whenever we use the comma portion, or the comma method, it's going to automatically add a space, okay? So let's go ahead and run that. So, 6, 4, and there it is. So what have I done with respect to this programming business? Well, basically, I began by getting my assignment header in there, quickly laying out the structure of my program, okay, commenting those areas where I take the pseudocode and turn them into command lines, and the easiest way to find out what the commands are is just type in the keyword Python and then type in what you want Python to be able to do, and it's going to show up on the web somewhere. So we did that. Of course, we ran into a crash because this was a string, so we fixed that problem with this, right? And so on and so forth. I snuck up on my program. I began with the pseudocoding outline, if you will, and then I went through and I just did each little piece at a time until I finally had a completed solution. Now you'll notice that when everything was said and done, I ran the program and I made sure that it worked, okay? Our program works. We have the simplest of programs. Later on, we'll talk a little bit more about the print statement so that we can do formatted printing and that kind of thing. But for right now, we'll call this good. And we'll discuss the next step, and that is zipping this whole thing together, okay? So let's go ahead and kill that, and move on to zipping files.